This is something very strange, terrifying. Study shows that the moon is shrinking with hour-long moonquakes taking place. And this is an image by NASA, and this is one of the huge cracks resulting from a moonquake. Now, the moon shrinking is stirring a violent degree of seismic activity beneath the surface and could prevent astronauts from settling there. That's the latest that's coming. So with all these earthquakes going on there, how could they establish a moon colony? Now, the moon is the Earth's only satellite and has for years been touted as the first place that humans might establish a permanent base until now with this study. That's because it's slowly shrinking, according to a new study, and could pose a danger to prospective human tenants. It has lost as much as 100 meters in circumference over the last few 100 million years, and its core has cooled. While the process is gradual, its effects have been observed on the moon's surface. Significant warping across parts of the moon's south pole has been observed, including along areas that have been proposed for the landing of NASA's crewed Artemis 3 landings. The study was carried out by the University of Maryland and published in the Planetary Science Journal, in which a team located the site of one of the most powerful moonquakes ever recorded. Because the shrinkage has been accompanied by seismic activity, scientists are now warning that some locations near fault zones could pose a risk to future astronaut explorers. Our modeling suggests that shallow moonquakes capable of producing strong ground shaking in the south polar region are possible from slip events on existing faults or the formation of new thrust faults, wrote the study's lead author Thomas R. Waters, a senior scientist emeritus at the National Air and Space Museum Center for Earth and Planetary Studies. The global distribution of young thrust faults, their potential to be active, and the potential to form new thrust faults from ongoing global contraction, meaning global here, meaning the moon, should be considered when planning the location and stability of permanent outposts on the moon, they said. The biggest links to fault lines are paired up to the moon's southern polar region, where Apollo seismometers recorded the most powerful moonquake known to researchers 50 years ago. Some parts of this region were particularly vulnerable to landslides due to increased seismic shaking. Unlike earthquakes, which last only seconds or a few minutes, these shallow moonquakes can last for hours and even whole afternoons. This is similar to the magnitude 5 event the Apollo Passive Seismic Network recorded in the 1970s. The team linked that moonquake to a group of faults detected by the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter more recently. According to Dr. Nicholas Schmer, a co-author of the paper and an associate professor of geology at University of Maryland, this means that shallow moonquakes can devastate hypothetical human settlements on the moon. You can think of the moon's surface as being dry, grounded gravel and dust. Over billions of years, the surface has been hit by asteroids and comets, with the resulting angular fragments constantly getting ejected from the impacts, he explained. As a result, the reworked surface material can be micron-sized to boulder-sized, but all very loosely consolidated. Loose sediments make it very possible for shaking and landslides to occur. The researchers are continuing to map out the moon and its seismic activity in hope of finding more locations that may pose a risk to human exploration in the future. NASA's Artemis missions, which are scheduled to launch their first crewed flight later this year, yes, crewed flight, are hoping to establish a long-term presence on the moon and enable humans to live and work on a planetary base. Dr. Schmer said, as we get closer to the crewed Artemis mission's launch date, it's important to keep our astronauts, our equipment, and the infrastructure as safe as possible. This work is helping us prepare for what awaits us on the moon, whether that's engineering structures that can better withstand lunar seismic activity or protecting people from really dangerous zones, he explains. So these moonquakes can last for hours, from what they explain. This is by Joel Day on Express UK. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.